Welcome to Securing the Spark, the CyberForce Program official podcast powered by the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, also known as DOE CSER. We dive into cybersecurity, workforce development, and how tomorrow's professionals are helping secure our nation's energy infrastructure. I am your host, Eddie, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Steph and Amanda. In this episode, we shift our focus to the volunteers who make the CyberForce competition possible. The green team, red team members, orange team judges, and subject matter experts who dedicate their time to mentoring and evaluating our competitors. Steph, Amanda, I think it's important that we clarify the different volunteer roles to their associate colors within the competitions, since we know it can get confusing at times.
That's a great idea. So first, there's 4 primary volunteer roles within the CyberForce competition. Red, which are our attackers. Green, which usually are user and operators. Orange, which take on the role of our C-suite. So think of your CEO, COO, or your CISO. And purple, who are our logistics support. So to dive deeper, the red team is our technical volunteer role. You can be virtual or in person to support. Minimum requirements are that you need to pass the capture the flag or your CTF prior to the competition, and you must be able to support the Friday and Saturday of the competition week.
And then there's the green team, which is our non-technical volunteer role. Anyone from any background can really volunteer for this role. It can be virtual or on site, and it does take place on that Saturday of the actual competition day when the blue teams are competing for those 8 hours. So it's composed of volunteers of all backgrounds, and they play the business user or an owner-operator during the competition where they test the functionality of each of the blue team's websites that they created.
The orange team is an all-virtual team, and it takes place about 1 or 2 weeks prior to the competition. These volunteers will act in the role of a senior executive, like Amanda said, like the CEOs, the COOs, and they're senior executives in a fictitious company and evaluate an elevator pitch and security documentation that the students have to provide. No background is required as we provide them rubrics and instructions before the competition.
And last, we have our purple team or logistics support, and they support for items like check-in, t-shirts, lunch, and other items as we need prior to the competition. So typically this is done on the Friday and Saturday. This is an in-person only volunteer spot. So they typically take on a 2-hour shift.
So that was just a high-level, quick summary. So there's in-person or virtual opportunities. Those would be your red, green. And then there's the virtual opportunities, which are your orange. And of course, the in-person only is the purple logistics. So no matter your time frame or your skill set, we definitely have a volunteer opportunity for you.
I think that overview will help when we hear from Clara Glennon in today's episode when she discusses her role as a green teamer in the CyberForce competition. She also speaks about her history of giving back and how providing students that positive experience can lead to a larger ripple effect for their future. So let's spark the conversation.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Carol Glennon. I'm a longtime cybersecurity leader. Right now, I focus on offensive security, but I've also done a lot of work in application security and incident response. I've also been a mentor for many years for those who are early in their cyber career. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. In terms of just kind of how I got connected to you, Amanda, and then to CyberForce, I kind of knew you were one of the key organizers, but we actually met while we were speaking on a panel outside of CyberForce, but you gave a lot of information about CyberForce at the panel, and this was at one of our local schools. That panel was kind of talking through encouraging students to get involved in cyber early, maybe think about creating a career there. And your energy, your dedication to the mission just really resonated with me, so the more I learned about CyberForce, the more I kind of wanted to get involved with it.
I love that. I was just talking to Steph earlier today, and I was like, I guarantee you that Carol's going to bring up about this panel, because I said I'm confident that's where she heard about it, and that's where She was. I'm like, this is where it's going to all come full circle at some point in time, where a panel will bring people together, and this is where we are. So I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I just think like meeting in that way is it just speaks volumes about the kind of folks that do turn up for things like CyberForce. I like, for me, service is a guiding principle. It runs super deep in both my family and my personal history too. I love teaching, I love coaching, and being on a panel like that isn't unusual for me at all. So you tend to have like birds of a feather kind of group in those locations. And that's why when I heard about it, you kind of talked about it in the panel, it was a perfect blend for me. It's a way to give back, help shape the next generation of defenders, and just support a community that's doing something really meaningful for both the students and our nation too.
It's so nice to be able to get out there, talk about the program, and that again, in turns for that was panel was high school. It gets them involved in the college level, then ideally, hopefully remembering, but for you, it sparked something for the volunteer side.
Absolutely.
So then you come in, you play a role for us on the volunteer end, which we talked about colors. And so you're play a green team volunteer typically for us, which is the role of an owner and operator. But can you describe for us in your words now, so it's less on us, kind of like what you typically do as a green team volunteer?
Yeah, I mean, as a green team volunteer, I love it because I'm really helping to make sure that the submissions that the various teams are working on, those submissions either work as designed or they don't. So I'm really looking to see how the sites are impacted by the work the teams are doing, and then I'm giving that feedback in real time back to the CyberForce panel, so that the CyberForce panel can kind of determine how are these teams doing, who's in the lead, who is making changes to their attack means, the way that they're approaching the different problems that are having an impact on these sites. And of course, just making sure that throughout the shift, as those sites open up for testing, I'm right there, ready to move through the pages, test the various elements, whether that's looking for a specific button that should appear, looking for types of text or links, figuring out if those actually work anymore. I'm looking for all of those operations, but I don't have to remember all that by heart. We have really easy to follow guides, so I really know in a very straightforward way exactly what I'm looking for on each page. And then I'm basically reporting if that particular element is still working or not.
We talked about how green team is an element for people, whether you have a technical background like you do, and or it works for people who don't really have a technical background but are interested in volunteering and they want to just get an understanding of what's going on. It really is a role that allows people to see into the competition, but also kind of get their feet wet in something very quick, easy, simple. But to even your comment, like, I don't have to memorize everything. There's a guide that literally tells me, like, this is what I should expect. This is what I should see. So you don't ideally have to play I don't know if this is technically right or not. We really put it out there for people to, almost have a rubric along with it.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of fun. As we move through the day, I am normally checking out the leaderboard, see what's going on. I'm following the live updates that are coming out as well to see which teams are in the lead, really cheering them on as well. So it's a lot of fun and it's easy. It is not difficult to do. You just want to get in there, be on time for your shift, really read the directions, make sure that your directions are ready to go and that your system's up and working, and then it's off to the races.
I was kind of in the same spot too. And I remember I first volunteered back in 2016 as a green team member. So I wasn't affiliated with CyberForce at that time. I just kind of came in out as an outside volunteer. And I remember loving it. Obviously I came back every year. But in terms of CyberForce, were there any aspects of volunteering for this specific role that kind of surprised you or anything unique stand out during your time volunteering?
Oh, good question. I would say the passion that the students bring is just incredible. That really surprised me. They are in no way just going through the motions. They're fully invested. And you can see this, like teams are working late. They're actively encouraging one another. There's a ton of creativity, even under pressure here. It just, for me as a day-to-day practitioner, it really reminds you why cybersecurity matters and how much talent is coming up through our pipelines. I can tell you the energy is contagious. It definitely recharges me. So for the weeks after the CyberForce event, I'm still kind of getting the positive benefits from that.
Right. And even year to year, it's so neat to see the different websites that you're looking at for all these teams. Obviously every year is a different scenario, but even just how different teams approach it differently. I thought that was so unique and not something you get, in everyday volunteer roles that you're out there doing. So I think being immersed in the competition kind of as your own role is always a neat thing. And I know you mentioned earlier that service runs deep in your family, whether with, coaching and teaching. Why is volunteering for things like CyberForce so meaningful for you?
This is really special. CyberForce is service work that I see as a force multiplier. So where the impact goes far beyond the moment. And from my perspective, for every student that walks away from CyberForce with a positive experience, we are planting seeds for future leaders, for defenders, and for innovators in cybersecurity. So it's really that ripple effect, knowing that a small action today, like participating and volunteering, can create real change tomorrow and beyond. That's what's deeply meaningful to me. That's why volunteering for events that are those force multiplier events is so important.
Yeah, and I think that runs deep through CyberForce, just the variety of volunteers that we get, even whether it's green team or orange or other colors. I just feel like it's a special event where, we get people from industry, we get people of all different backgrounds, whether they're competing or volunteering. It's just kind of adds to that unique aspect of CyberForce overall. What is one of the most rewarding parts of volunteering? It doesn't have to be just green in general, but just overall.
Giving back, absolutely. This is the best way that we can help to create a stronger fabric for tomorrow. So for me, I'm a part of that. We are planting trees that we may never enjoy the shade of, but we know that we're helping to create a fabric of resiliency, a pipeline of talent that's excited to get started in this industry. Being a contributor to that, there's just no match for it. We're one team and we win together. So the more that we can do to get that pipeline strong and make sure that there are people who feel supported to enter this field as a career, that's the way that we can protect tomorrow.
I think that's like a great answer on top. I mean, not to say like any answer is wrong, but I think that, we all know that like sooner or later this pipeline's coming to fill a role, and then sooner or later we want to leave our roles or we want to move up, and someone has to be able to like mold and help the new people that come into our roles fill our shoes or even overfill our shoes. And so how do we do that? We need to like also help them now to understand like what the gaps are that we see, because those gaps are only going to get bigger by the time they're ready to fill the shoes. So why not start them now to be prepared for the job interviews, for the questions, for, so they have somewhat, as we like to tell everyone, like experience. This might not be a job experience, but it's a lot of pressure. Like you said, those 8 hours of, grueling, going through all these tasks, having to fix things. And so to be able to use that in, something for the next day, the next year, whatever it is, I think it's beneficial for them.
I'm not going to lie, Carol. I absolutely love that saying you just said, planting the trees, even if you don't enjoy the shade. We spend all these time and all these hours putting this event together for 700 students that are not at their future yet, but they don't understand. We're doing it for their future. So that really resonated with me. Like, thank you for that quote. That. I'm using that in the future. that's something I'm writing down.
Pass it on for sure. For sure.
So before we close out, is there any like final thoughts you want to provide on whether it's volunteering or anything that you want to share along?
Yeah, please, for the volunteers like that are out there, please come and volunteer. We need volunteers to show up for this group of talented early to career individuals who are out there like putting themselves out. So let's turn up for them. and support them as volunteers. And if you're thinking about participating in this event as one of our teams, like, please know that we're cheering you on. We need you. Cyber in general needs you. So please know that we're here for you. We're here to support you. We're cheering you on.
That closes out our third episode. Thank you, Carol, for once again speaking with us. The CyberForce competition owes a great deal of success to our volunteers like you. If this episode has you curious about getting involved in the CyberForce program, head over to cyberforce.energy.gov to learn more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast, Securing the Spark. Thanks for listening. Until next time.